In this demonstration, we're going to look at configuring a network load balancer to be used with Microsoft Exchange Server 2019. The reason why we're doing this is we are protecting our databases with a DAG, database availability group, that uses high availability clustering. But the Exchange server is also a client access server, so it allows the clients to access their mailboxes via various clients. Unfortunately, with the Microsoft Server operating system, if you create a cluster, it can be a high availability cluster or a network load balance cluster. It can't be both. So what we're doing in the case of this demo is we're using a Zen Load Balancer Community Edition, but to be fair, you could be using anything you want for this. Within the company that I currently work for, we use things like F5, Big IP, network load balancers. In the past, I've used additional ones, so me being also a VMware person, I've also used NSX. So as a product as well. So we have both software and hardware load balancers. So what we're going to do is we're just going to configure this software load balancer to protect the client access services. If we lose one of the servers, users will still be able to access their email via another server. On this load balancer, what we have to do is we have to create a virtual network interface. So if we just come to the interfaces, once we get into the interfaces component, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new virtual interface that we will use for the network load balancer. So in this load balancer, we're just going to come to the plus one here and we're going to add a virtual adapter. We're going to make this name number 1 and then we need to specify an IP address. So I'm going to go for 172.16.0.100 and that will be what we will point our DNS record at eventually. Now we put in the IP address and we put in the name. Next thing to do is just select our save button. That's come back as successful. Now we have that virtual interface, we need to point that virtual interface at something. So within this load balancer, what we do is we create forms. We have to give the form a name. We also have to specify a protocol, so we've done that. So now what we can do is we can save and continue. Then brings us into configuring our new form. So now what we need to do is we need to actually point this at something. So in the case of this form, we're going to use the virtual IP that we just created on the interface, 172.16.0.100, and we're going to specify the port we're going to be listening on, port 443. Now we've done that, we'll select our save button. And as you can see, that's successful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the service to the form that we're going to point to. So we'll click on the edit button. And then once we get into the edit button, we just need to specify some settings within here. The client access settings actually within Exchange Server are stateless. So at this point here, we don't really need to worry about enabling client IP address persistent through memory. And we'll just save that off by clicking the modify button. And we'll just scroll down. So we're going to point that single IP address, this one, at real IP server configuration. So all we're going to do at this point here is we're going to add in our 2 servers. So in the case of the servers themselves, what we're doing to start with, server 0, we just need to type in the IP address, port number, and then just fill out the rest of the information for the waiting, priority, and maximum connections. Now we've added that information, we'll just select our save button. And what we need to do is we need to add another server. So we'll click plus again. We'll add in the second server. Now our second server is 172.16.0.15, port 443 again, maximum connection 0, wait 0, priority. We want a fairly low balance between these servers. And again, what we'll do is we'll just save that off. Now we've done that, we'll just scroll up and we'll just come to our monitoring section. And in our monitoring section, what we're going to look for here is we're just going to look for connection statistics. So what we can see at this point here, we can see Exchange, see the virtual IP, 443, pending connections, nothing, so nobody's actually coming in through this load balancer yet. Let's also have a look at the backend statistics. So what we can see at this point here, again, no connections pointing at the back end. And what we'll also do as well is we'll just change this so we'll refresh the statistics every 30 seconds. And that's the network load balancer component set up. Now let's just come into Server Manager and let's just set up the DNS record to be used for Exchange. So we'll come into DNS. We'll just come into our forward lookup zones. We'll just come for a datum. And what we're going to do at this point here is we're just going to create a new host record. So what we're going to call this is we're going to call this webmail. What we're going to do is we're going to point webmail at the virtual IP address we created. Which is the 172.16.0.100. So at this point here, we can select add host, and we can select OK and select done. So now if we access webmail.adatum.com, it's going to point at the virtual IP on the network load balancer. The network load balancer will then load balance between my two Exchange servers. And now what we'll do is we'll just test to make sure that is working. So we'll just come back to Internet Explorer. We'll just open up a new tab and we'll just do our https:// and then what we're going to do is we're going to do webmail.adatum.com/ and then we'll stick in OWA, hit return, and what we should find is that it gives us the login page for our Outlook on the web. So at this point here, we can now see that we are indeed pointing at one of the Exchange servers. So what we've done in this demonstration is we've configured a third-party network load balancer, we've created the DNS record, and what we've done is we've just came in, specified the URL to point OWA, and that's the end of this demonstration. Thank you.